Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Nirvadadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nanjana Brajarana Janjana Yashoda Nanjana Brajarana Janjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Amona Chira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nanjana Brajarana Janjana Yashoda Nanjana Brajarana Janjana Amona Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you, Sankarsana Prabhu. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvikacharya Ashtrutashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parvikacharya Ashtrutashi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se ko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunar Kungiri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, and Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Prabhupada. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devam saraswatam vyasam Tato jayam urdeyat Nasta praisu bhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavat Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 15, Text 23. Anvikshikya Shokamohau Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamadi Anihaya Anvikshikya Shokamohau Damba Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihya Anvikshikya Shokamohau Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihya Anvikshikya Shokamohau Damba Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihaya Anvikshikya Shokamohau Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihaya Anvikshikya Shokamoha Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihaya Anvikshikya Shokamoha Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihaya Anvikshikya Shokamoha Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam Kamad Yanihaya. Anyone online would like to chant?
Anvikshikya Shokamoha Dambam Mahad Upasya Yogantarayan Maunena Himsam kamadya nihaya.
Anyone else?
Anviksaya soka mohau. Dambam mahatupashaya. Yogantayan maunena. Himsam kamadi anihaya.
Anvikshikya. By deliberation upon material and spiritual subject matters. Shoka, lamentation. Mohau, an illusion. Dambam, false pride. Mahat, a Vaishnava. Upasya, by serving. Yoga antarayan, obstacles on the path of yoga. Maunena, by silence. Himsam, envy. Kama adi, for sense gratification. Anihaya, without endeavor. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. By discussing spiritual knowledge, one can conquer lamentation and illusion. By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. By keeping silent, one can avoid obstacles on the path of mystic yoga. And simply by stopping sense gratification, one can conquer envy. Purport. If one's son has died, one may certainly be affected by lamentation and illusion, and cry for the dead son. But one may overcome lamentation and illusion by considering the verses of Bhagavad Gita. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha. As the soul transmigrates from one who has taken birth must give up the present body, and then he must certainly accept another body. There should be no cause for lamentation. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, dhīras tatra muhyati. One who is dhīra, or sober, who is learned in philosophy and established in knowledge, cannot be unhappy over the transmigration of the soul. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurn militam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantingam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Sha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitamtam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Sha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavineshwari Vishabhanusita Devi Pranamami Hare Priya Vancha Kalpatribhyascha Kripasandibheva Cha Patithanam Pavinabhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Badrinarayan Swami Tinami. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravan Pracharini Nirvisesa Shunyavad Paschatyadisha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So the potency of medicine is if it's taken as prescribed by the physician. If we whimsically take the medicine according to our convenience, it loses its potency. So Srila Prabhupada, he gave us instructions. He gave us a program in which we should follow. And if we follow it properly, we develop love for Krishna, and then we go back home, back to Godhead. But when we manufacture, when we speculate, when we change, when we just want to do our own thing, it ruins the medicine. Just like in India and everywhere else, it's almost impossible to get good quality milk now. They add a little bit of water, more water, more water. Next thing you know, it's just watered milk. It's been like that for a while. So the more we water down Srila Prabhupada's philosophy, water down this knowledge, it loses its potency. But of course, we should preach according to time, place, and circumstance. I was taking Maharaj back to his apartment last night, and he said if we're trying to teach algebra and the people have not understood the very basics of mathematics, they can't understand algebra. So we should preach or share Krishna consciousness according to one's capacity to learn. And in Srimad Bhagavatam is giving us the medicine on how to cope with difficulties in life. Death, someone who is materially opulent, they become bewildered. And when one is a slave to lust, Srimad Bhagavatam describes what are the symptoms and what is the cure for it. That's why reading and hearing Srila Prabhupada's lectures, reading his books is so important. So here, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that losing a loved one can be very painful. It can be very traumatic. Sometimes people don't know how to move on. Sometimes people may even die of a heartache. When I go out in book distribution, when I ask people, how's your day so far? Sometimes people just can't hide it, and they express their emotions. I recently just lost my husband, my wife, and in unfortunate circumstances, people may lose a child, even at a young age. Srila Prabhupada was once, maybe when I'm older I can practice spiritual life. Srila Prabhupada said, do you know what the definition of old means? Old means someone who is close to death. Dravida Prabhu, can you sing that poem about, it doesn't matter if you're older in your prime, death can happen at any, can you chant? With the microphone, please.
Remember that our final breath may come at any time, no matter if we're old and sick or in our youthful prime. So young and old alike should chant the name incessantly. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be.
Thank you. So that's a big misconception, especially in today's youth, that I should focus more on my spirit, on my material life, my economic development, and then maybe I'll take up spiritual life. But if the body is failing, if the mind is failing, if our memory is failing, what good is it? And I was telling Bhakti Matthias Prabhu, Maharaj Kula Shekhar, he was saying, let me die right now when I'm young, so I can still remember the lotus feet of Krishna. Because when old age hits, it becomes very difficult. It takes more time to take care of the body, And I was just remembering when Vidura was very heavy with King Dhritarashtra. After the fight, after the war of Kurukshetra, the battle of Kurukshetra, the king, the blind king Dhritarashtra, he was still living in the house of the Pandus, and he was shameless. So Vidura, he had to speak to him very heavily. He said, old age has come. Your teeth are loose. It was very descriptive like that. And it said, you're living like a dog in the house of those that you've tried to kill. And I said, now it's time to go to the forest, renounce this kingdom. But in the West, it's actually the opposite, Without mentioning names, the people that are in the president position, they're in their old age, but they're still holding on to this position. And actually in Vedic culture, it makes so much sense, 1/4 of your life, you stay brahmachari, you learn, you develop good qualities. And then when a person has a desire, he can get married the second half of his life. And then the third part is second third of his life. He starts renouncing working. Retirement. He gives up his business. He travels to the holy places. And then when one has the strength, he can take sannyas to leave family behind and pursue spiritual life 100%. But in this age, it's so difficult. Like Balaram Prabhu was saying, the brahmachari ashram and the sannyas ashram, we have very low count of members, But we're not discounting grihastha life. There's so many wonderful householders. So this pain of separation is so great that when one loses the ability to carry on in life. An example are the gopis. They said, we're burning in the separation from you, but the only thing that's keeping us alive is your promise that one day you're going to come back to Vrindavan. So separation. Also, Arjuna, in the Bhagavad Gita, he was arguing with Krishna, even based on Shastra and Vedic arguments that why should we kill our own kinsmen? It's better to live in the forest than enjoy the sovereignty of the kingdom that those that we fought and killed. And also another pastime that reminded me of this verse is King Chitraketu. He had everything, He had a nice kingdom, he had a nice wife, he had, the citizens were, happy with them. He had good ministers and advisors. But when he was pacing back and forth, I think it's, do you remember the sage that came to him? Was it Agastya Muni? Okay. King Chitraketu? Who was the one that asked him, how is everything? Okay. Yeah. So Agastya Muni, he came to the king and said, my dear king, I can see that your citizens are happy, but the look on your face, the face is an index of the mind that there's something bothering you, So this king, Chitraketu, he said, everything's fine in the kingdom. My health is good. My citizens are happy. They're following their dharma. But there's one problem that's missing. There's one thing missing in my life, which was a son. And as a king, you need progeny to carry on the kingdom. But nonetheless, despite having everything, he was lamenting for not having a son. And Srila Prabhupada, he would say, sometimes people think that a blind uncle is better than having no uncle. So similarly, in the Hitopadesh, it says, one learned son is better than 100 of foolish ones. One moon is able to dispel the darkness. So Srila Prabhupada, he's giving us this information on how to be dhīra or sober-minded. Sometimes when I remember the first time I saw a dead person, it was my grandfather. He was lying on this couch. I was probably like 8 years old or something. And I asked my mom, how come Grandpa's not moving? And she said, oh, he's sleeping. And I said, okay. So me and the kids, we went outside, we played tag, I didn't even think twice about it. And then until I was like 13, I noticed I don't even see my grandpa anymore, So I asked my mother, and then she said, yeah, your grandpa has died. I was like, what is death, Because, when you're a child, you don't really think about these things. But for devotees, we actually learn these very early in our Krishna conscious career, One is that you're not the body. Two is that you're the eternal soul within this body. And after death, Krishna says, just like as a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts a new material body according to our karma and our desire at the time of death. And also, whatever state of being one remembers at the time of death, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam tyajit yante kalevram tam tamivati konteya siddhatad bhava bhavata. Whatever state of consciousness one remembers at the time of death, that state he attains without fail. So at the time of death, what will we think of? Sureshwar, what will you think of? Krishna? Blueberry muffin? You know. So Srila Prabhupada, he wanted us to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. That's why we dovetail all of our activities, throughout our day, we should try to remember Krishna, even if it's in the background. Dharma Setu Prabhu, he does a lot of Shraddha ceremonies and weddings and stuff like that. And whenever he needs books, he chooses 3 books. SSR, Science of Self-Realization, Higher Taste, and Coming Back. And I asked him one day, I said, Dharma Setu, why do you choose these books? And then he said, SSR, it helps them to understand who they are and what the goal of life is. And then Higher Taste, it gets them into being vegetarian, to give up sinful activities. And not many people even understand that eating meat is a sin. Sometimes we get preached on by Christians. They talk about sin, this, and then when I tell them, do you know that killing is a sin? They say, yeah, of course. And then when you mention killing an animal, that's when they kind of draw back, They say, no, it's murdering that's a sin. And then I ask them, why coming back? And said, when people die, it gives them a small window of self-reflection, Just like Yudhishthira Maharaj. He said, countless creatures are going to the abode of death, but those that remain believe themselves to be immortal. Although we see death all around us, we still, illusion covers us and we start thinking, I still have another year, another 5 years. So he shares these 3 books, and I think it's actually very wonderful. If I was in one of these weddings, brahmachari joke, I would be so happy to read these books. Coming Back, Higher Taste, and Science of Self-Realization. Srila Prabhupada, he says, one who asks these questions is considered intelligent and educated. Just like Sanatana Goswami, he fell at the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said, many people call me learned, I'm surrounded by aristocratic friends, but I don't even know who I am, His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, he was giving a lecture, and he also mentioned that a lot of intelligent, learned, wealthy people, when they were asked, who are you, they didn't know how to answer it, or they incorrectly answered it, So Mataji was saying, I'm a mother of 3, I'm a businessman, I'm this, I'm that. So even if actually the modern educational system, they teach people the wrong things to learn. When I meet people on book distribution and they say their profession is education or they're a teacher, I would ask them, what is the purpose of education? And then, they would say their answer, and I would show them the verse in the Bhagavad Gita, 9.2, Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyaksha Dharmam Susukam Kartamavayam. That this knowledge is the king of education, is the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting and joyfully performed. So when they hear that, the king of education, I tell them, just like you're teaching your students material education, you should also teach them about spiritual values and spiritual education. And then they take a Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita, it's relatable to everyone. It's relevant for everyone. Sometimes, as you go out on book distribution, you can see the sadness in people's eyes, you know. Whether they're lost and confused, this and that, maybe they're just in so much burden. Just like we were in the BBT, at the BBT on Wednesday. Ekaraj Prabhu, he used to have an assistant, Leo, but his name is Balram Vasudev now. And he's in a lot of stress, you know. And usually, in our relationship is like friendship. You know, he would say, Haribol Prabhu, and you know, I would help him. And even as devotees, sometimes we go through difficulties. So last Thursday, he chastised me. He said, you Prabhu's think I have all the time in the world, huh? Like that. And then he said, you think I just sit around not doing work? Like that. So he said, give me your order. So I sent him my order and he made it. And he said, just wait here. And then later on he apologized. He said, I'm sorry, Prabhu, for you know, treating you like that. I'm in a lot of stress because it's the December marathon. So it has a lot of orders to complete and send out. But yeah, as Vaishnavas, like it says here, by serving a great devotee, one can become prideless. And Ekaraj Prabhu, one who knows Ekaraj Prabhu, he's like a no-nonsense type of person, you know. He needs to get the work done, like that. And in my own life, I used to work with a lot of hospice patients. And most of them are in delusion, they're in denial, you know. Even though they have so much doctors telling them, you know, there's no way to recover, you have this much to live. And then they still try to enjoy as much as they can. But one day I was giving out medication, and this Mataji named Liz, she was a little different from the rest. And then when I was giving her medicine, she said, hey Glenn, can I ask you a question? I said, sure, what's that? She said, what happens when we die? It's like a wonderful question, you know. So I started explaining to her how the body is temporary, but we, the soul, is eternal. And we actually get another body at the time of death. And then she said, you mean like reincarnation? And I said, yeah. And then she said, that makes a lot of sense. So I was actually preaching to her. And a lot of families come up to me after their father or mother passed away. And they ask me, how do you keep your composure, you know? Seeing all of this death all around you, how do you stay sane? And I tell them I read from this book, Bhagavad Gita. And I show them so many verses. And they say, wow, I've never heard of this book before. And so one family, they asked me to speak on their father's funeral. And I said, you know, I'm not sure, you know, if my schedule fits that, if I'm working that day, you know. But they just wanted to thank me for giving them some light in their life. All right. And so even if one can understand that they're the eternal soul, another question is, as an eternal soul, why do I, sometimes like that in the Krishna lounge, although they may have some knowledge of Brahman realization, they don't know that they actually have a duty as a soul. And another problem is that they think, oh, it's okay, I'll live in the mode of goodness in my next birth. But you're actually still implicated in the cycle of birth and death. So that doesn't solve the problem. And it's interesting how most people, they don't think like that. I was kind of thinking like that, maybe in my next life I'll become very learned, very intelligent. I'll take birth in a good family. I'll have nice facilities, to practice spiritual life. So I never even thought about liberation, moksha, from the cycle, samsara. And so that was one of the other questions, that if the soul is repeatedly taking birth and birth again, why shouldn't I want it to stop? Like, why should I keep going, taking birth again and again? And that was actually when I went on my spiritual journey. What is the point of, sometimes Christians also say that without worrying about karma and reincarnation, you just take shelter of Jesus Christ and He'll deliver you, But Krishna says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. I remember reading that in Bhagavad Gita, and I was like 90% convinced, I should surrender my life to Krishna. Because it's sobering, life after life, we're trying to enjoy the senses, we're trying to get better birth, this and that, but that's not really solving the problem. Okay. So I'll stop here. Mukundacharna Prabhu sets a good example of ending on time. Are there any questions or comments or reflections?
Yes, just one quick comment. You mentioned in the course of your talk, and to be honest, I forget the context, but that the gopis were, and all the residents of Vrindavan were constantly lamenting because they were separated from Krishna, and it was so painful. And it's not mentioned in the Krishna book, but and it's a long purport, I'm not going to read it, but if you go to the actual Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 78th verse, 78th chapter, verse 16, 10:78:16. It describes, quoting from the Padma Purana, how after Krishna killed, if you read through the Krishna book, Krishna kills Shalva. There's a whole battle there. He comes back and there's a battle going on. He kills Shalva. Then he kills Dantavakra, who's one of the Jaibi, And then he kills Vidurata. And somehow or other, even though the battle basically took place in Dwarka, by Dwarka, this was right near Mathura. So Krishna couldn't go to Mathura when he's in Dwarka, because all the Dwarkites would have freaked out if he went back there, So he had that was a long separation. But now he was there already. He was on just over across the river from Mathura. So he went back to Mathura. And it's described, it's quote from the Padma Purana, how all the reunion there, and that he sent them all back. You see, the residents who were there, they were expansions like of the original Brijbasis and everything, and demigods and like that. So they went back to where they came from, and the Brijbasis who were there, they also went back to Goloka, but they were there just as Krishna is there now to this very day in his Bhava expansion. You may have heard of that. So they're all present there in subtle expansion, and great devotees can see them. So you may want to, because this is, he did go back eventually. He promised I'm going to go back, as soon as I killed Kamsa. Well, it took about 100 years, but he did come back. And everything was resolved there, and so they had the reunion. So, but it's quite lengthy, and I was going to read it, but it's too long to read. But the reference, 10th canto, 78th chapter, text 16. You might be interested in reading that.
Thank you, Dhruva.
Hare Krishna.
We have one in-house question of Vijay Krishna Prabhu, and then two questions.
Krishna, thank you so much. In the end of you mentioned this that Christians say that
don't worry
don't worry about this everything, and only surrender to Jesus. And how you understand this statement in according to this Sarvadharman Parityaja, this almost the same statement.
Well, Srila Prabhupada, he never really wanted to convert people. He always encouraged them, whatever faith or religion you're practicing, you can follow that if it helps you to develop love of Godhead. But then Srila Prabhupada said, but follow your scripture. You know? So when Jesus Christ said, thou shalt not kill, they're not following that. Actually, Maharaj, I think he got it from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He said most people follow a religion based on 4 things. 1 is out of fear, you know, I don't want to go to hell. 2 is their own personal, maybe like salvation, you know, enjoyment. The 3rd one is out of duty, you know, I'm a Christian, so I should go to like that. And then the 4th one and the topmost is out of love. So most people, they're looking for some easy way to get out of, you know, sin and how to get out of hell, you know. So that's my understanding. If they do surrender to Jesus, that's wonderful. But yeah, Jesus Christ, his sacrifice is actually a one-time thing. It was meant to reform the heart, you know. I take shelter of Jesus, and then I'm going to give up all of these other rascal activities, but they don't do that, you know. And also, you know, at Balboa Park, how the Grinch Stole Christmas, the play is going on now. So I call it How the Grinch Stole the Sankirtan movie. Because there's so many people walking by and they're not interested, but they're interested in watching the play. And then I asked this one man, I said, excuse me, what does the Grinch have to do with Jesus Christ? And then he just looked at me and he walked away. You know? So most people, they're not really interested in religion, or they're not really interested in Lord Jesus Christ's teachings. They're just looking for, like what Srila Prabhupada says, a cheating religion. You know, is that okay? Dvijamani Prabhu?
You mentioned at the end of the talk how people in Krishna Lounge have Brahman realization. And I'm just wondering, what's your understanding of Brahman realization and how it's applicable to those people who come?
So yeah, there's Brahman realization, there's Paramatma, and then there's Bhagavan realization. Most Krishna loungers, if they're on a spiritual journey, they can somewhat understand that I'm not this body, you know, I'm the soul within the body. But they don't know that everyone else is a soul. All the animals are souls. So they actually lack real knowledge. Their knowledge is incomplete. So that's my understanding of Brahman realization, is that, you know, I'm eternal. But they don't know that they're actually part of a bigger concept, you know, like that. What was your second question?
Well, how it's applicable to people who come to Krishna Lounge?
Yeah, like Srila Prabhupada, he would point out the different limbs of the body, and when people say my hand, my head, my body, so then he would say that the word my, it implies ownership of someone, you know. So then when you tell them who is that I that's thinking my hand, my body, and then they can kind of begin to understand that's right, there is something different than the body. So that's one way for them to understand. And also Krishna says that just like the sun illuminates the universe, the soul is what's illuminating the whole body with consciousness. You know, and if people are a little thoughtful, if people are a little intelligent, then they can understand that, yeah, that's right, consciousness is different than the body. I think that's my best answer.
What do you think they're missing for complete understanding?
Association of devotees and Krishna's teachings. Just like we always give them an opportunity to, you know, take a book, but it's up to them if they want to read it or not. And yeah, just spending some time with them, like what Mara said. If they're not understanding 1 + 1, they won't be able to understand higher topics. So I have to meet them where they're at. Is that okay? Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Govardhan Prabhu. In the translation, I read, quote, "By serving a great devotee, one can become prideless," close quote. So based on this quote, I have two questions. The first one is, how to serve a great devotee? And the second one is, why is it that pride is not good for us?
Okay. Maharaj, when we were in Oregon, Portland, he actually asked this question, why is pride bad for us? And one of the answers was that pride, how does it go?
Comes before a fall?
Yes, and it prevents us from taking good instruction. When someone is too prideful, he doesn't, and it's hard to, like what Maharaj said last night, when to admit that we're wrong, to admit that we made a mistake is very painful, you know. And so pride, it covers our intelligence, and it's actually a bad quality to have. Krishna, he left the gopis when they became a little proud, you know. They all were here dancing with Krishna. Out of all the gopis, Krishna is here, and then Krishna disappeared. And also pride, it's one of those, sorry, I'm thinking about something else. But, and when you're in this mood of, you know, being proud, you don't want to serve others. So that's actually against our constitutional position. As souls, we're meant to serve Krishna and also serve his devotees. But, and how to serve a great devotee? Maharaj used this example. If I'm thirsty and I want a glass of water, but you think, oh, you know, water is just plain, I'll give you orange juice, or I'll give you milk, you know. And then you bring this cup of milk to me, I won't be pleased or satisfied, because that's not what I asked or wanted. And also we should know what the devotee likes and dislike, you know, and so that way we don't, you know, speculate what this person likes or not. I think you guys all remember Bhakti Tyler. He had a small incident with another devotee, and he actually did something. He went out and he bought this devotee the type of nectar that he likes, you know. He put it in front of his door. He even wrote a little letter, you know, I'm sorry, please forgive my offenses. So we should learn what the devotee likes, and we can serve him in that way also. And it says that a disciple, if he's told what to do and he executes that order, then he's a second-class disciple. But if he can anticipate the spiritual master's intention, his first class, and then a disciple that's given an instruction and he doesn't do it properly, he's a third-class disciple, you know. So I think those are my answers, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, that we need to learn what the devotee likes. We can serve him in that. And there's many ways to serve devotees. We can give them gifts. We can, you know, so many things. And yeah, pride is just, it prevents us from learning more. It prevents us from growing. You know. And with this Kali Yuga, there's a whole pride movement, you know. Hare Krishna. Pride movement. Yeah. Like the LBQG, whatever that, you know. They have this march, they have this merit, you know. And, you know, it says, be who you are, but they don't even know who they are, you know. They're thinking, I'm a woman, so like that. Were you going to say something, Dravida Prabhu? I think Dravida Prabhu has something to add, Vijay Krishna.
Of course.
Okay.
I'm all ears.
Okay. So, the word dambha, okay, has several connotations. Here we see in the word-by-word meaning is false pride. Because there's pride and there's false pride. Pride is, you have some qualification and you're proud of it, but you really do have the qualification, right? That's not good either. But if you don't have the qualification and you still try to flaunt it as if you do have it, that's damba. In other words, there's an element of hypocrisy there. And so, now the verse says, by serving a great devotee, one becomes prideless, he becomes free from damba. So both things are there. You can become humble, you know, which is the obvious thing. You're a great devotee, and you realize how great he is, and well, okay, I'm not going to try to, you know, I'm nothing compared to that. And that's one aspect. But the other is that the great devotees, automatically you see the genuineness of them, the sincerity of them, and not only by their words but also by their actions. We saw Prabhupada was living it, you know. There were so many other bogus yogis that came, and you couldn't tell them apart, you know, and they preached this, preached that, made some success, but then they cashed in. There were, you know, Amalabhakta, there's a whole story in the BTG, how he came. It's very interesting. He gave up, you know, years and years of association with this yogi because he saw he was just a scammer. So both elements are there. Is that you feel, well, I'm coming before him and I have so many things that I think I have, but really, you know, I can see I'm just insignificant. And so that's why the bowing down is so important, physical as well as, you know, how about it? So that's the import of this verse, that it's the word damba has this broader connotation of getting rid of false pride. It means not only are you proud, but you don't even have the qualification that you pretend to have. And so all that gets swept away if you genuinely serve a great devotee. And the most important service is hearing from them submissively.
It reminds me of that young prince that wanted to fight against the Kauravas, you know. And Arjuna at that time, he was dressed like a woman.
Oh yeah.
What's his name? Yeah. When this prince saw the army, he wanted to turn back, and then Arjuna said, "If you turn back, I'm going to kill you." You know. He said, "Go up the tree, give me my weapons, you know, I'll fight them." And actually it's described that he fought the Kurus by himself, single-handed, and he defeated them once already, before the battle of Kurukshetra. Yeah. Is that okay, Vijay Krishna Prabhu?
Yes, Govardhan Prabhu, and if I may, I liked it very much when you answered about how to serve a great devotee, when you said that the first-class disciple of the Guru is the one who anticipates what is it that he should do for the pleasure of his spiritual master.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Vijay. And I'll tell one pastime. I was coming back on book distribution, and I had like a wonderful day. You know, Krishna was just handing me people, you know. So, and Maharaj wasn't feeling well, so I went to visit him, and he said, "How was Sankirtan?" And he knew, you know, I was gonna say all this thing, and then I was saying, "Oh, Maharaj," you know. And the first thing he said is, "Don't be too proud like that." And I said, "Okay." So he calmed my pride down, and then I said, "Oh, you know, by the mercy of Shiva, you know, I can distribute like that." Okay, thank you for your time and attention. Grant Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.